All right, good afternoon. My name is Rumbidza Ichakanyuka. I'm the billing supervisor. Today I'll be training the doctors on ways to improve claim acceptance with our various medical aids. As we all know, we've been having quite a number of rejections from these medical aids. So we've put down issues that are leading to these rejections, and I want to address them today. Thank you. So we start with the common causes of claim rejections based on the recent feedback that we got from the recent remittance that we received. So the common cause for claim rejections is on observations. We are guided by the AFOS, right? So they say observation time should be between 2 hours and 12 hours. And this should be demonstrated on the claims that we submit, on the treatment notes, and on the treatment plan as well. So the observation time, which is less than 2 hours, these claims are automatically rejected unless they are well motivated. Then inappropriate tariff selection. So we have what we call time-based tariffs, where we charge according to the time that has been spent by the patient in the accident and emergency unit, right? So these time-based tariffs, there are some diagnoses that we can't use them on, like on common cold cases, we can't use these tariffs. We have to use them on emergencies. And this also has to be supported by the treatment plan and that notes as well. So using time-based tariffs on cold cases or non-emergencies, it means that these claims are automatically rejected. If we are lucky, they will pay $35 for the 2291 tariff, which is the non-emergency tariff. But in some cases, they reject the claim altogether. Then we also have cases where the diagnosis is not justifying the admission. So there'll be a mismatch between the diagnosis and the treatment plan. We are looking at a claim here where we are saying the patient spent 46 minutes plus, right, in the accident and emergency unit. But then if we look at the notes here, the notes are showing us that this patient only received treatment. No drugs, no sundries, no supporting treatment plan, no observation, no drips or anything. The patient just received consultation, and it is written send patient home just after the consultation. So we cannot charge 46 minutes plus for this diagnosis. So this is usually caused by the fact that in our system, we've set it in a way that the doctor selects the diagnosis that matches with the tariff that will be used. So if you just select a diagnosis, if you select a diagnosis, you have to look at the tariff that is against that diagnosis and see if it's matching your treatment plan. If it's not, then you have to change that in the system. For example, you may select gastritis, and it will show you that it will show you that it's charging 02218, which is for 46 minutes plus. But you know that, no, this patient, I'm just going to give them a prescription and send them home. So in such cases, we are saying you should not charge the 02218 tariff. You should change it and charge the 02291, which goes for $35 in the system. I'm sure Dr. Zambezi has already done this training and showed us how we can change these tariffs in the system, right? Then we are saying the treatment plan, this is what I was just addressing, where the treatment plan does not justify the tariff used. We are saying if you use an emergency tariff, the treatment plan should also show that you are treating an emergency, right? Not just sending the patient home or not giving any medication, not giving anything. So the treatment plan should also justify the tariff used. Then we've been having quite a number of challenges on lab claims where the diagnosis does not justify the requested lab tests, right? So I'll just look at one of these claims here. We have one claim here where a patient right? The diagnosis that I have here is gastritis and duodenitis. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know what this means. So the tests requested here are HIV, FBC, UNE, H. pylori, LFT, and RBS. This is gastritis and duodenitis, right? So this claim, HIV, which is the most paying of all these tests, HIV goes for $62. The medical aids, they pay $62 for HIV tests, but it is the only test that was not paid here. So these medical aid guys are quite strict on HIV. The diagnosis has to justify why you are doing an HIV test. Because right now, just looking at gastritis, they will say it does not justify why you are doing it. So maybe here you might need a secondary diagnosis where you are explaining the reason why you are doing the HIV test. There might be something else that's making you do this test. So you have to really justify on the claim so that all the claims will be paid and not rejected. I also have one claim here where the diagnosis is acute pharyngitis, right? So here the tests requested were FBC, UND, clotting profile, LFT, lipid profile, HbA1c, vitamin B12, urine MCS, urethral swab for acute pharyngitis, right? So just looking at this claim before even submitting it to the medical aid, you can see that this will automatically be rejected because this diagnosis is not supporting all these tests. On this claim, the medical aid only paid FBC, UNE, and urine MCS, and all these other tests were rejected. They are really high-paying tests, which you could have benefited from if the diagnosis had been done properly, but then it was automatically rejected. So what I'm saying here is for us to really benefit from these tests or from these claims, let's make sure that the treatment plan and the diagnosis are really supporting what we are doing, be it tests, observations, or the emergency tariffs, right? So another reason why these claims are being rejected is insufficient clinical notes. So absence of detailed records supporting billed tariffs will also lead to claim rejections. If you do not really put enough, they should be short, but they should really nail to where the problem is, what the patient is suffering from. Let's capture everything to support the treatment that we will be giving, to support the tariffs that we will be using. We are an accident and emergency unit, and we are allowed to use these emergency tariffs. Looking at CMAS right now, they are allowing their members to only have 3 casualty visits per year, right? So we are saying these casualty visits, it means that there are emergencies because you wouldn't want to waste your 3 visits on non-emergency. So if we see a CMAS patient, it probably means that they are really sick and what they are suffering from is an emergency. So what we have to do here is to just make sure that we really work on the treatment notes, on the treatment plan, and on the diagnosis. I'm not saying put false diagnoses on anything, no. I'm just saying let's make sure we capture everything as we should to ensure that our claims are not rejected. These time-based tariffs are beneficial for us. We are allowed to use them and we should use them, but we should use them properly. Where you know that, no, this is really not an emergency. For this patient, I can't do anything. I just have to give them maybe their prescription. I just have to send them home. So for such kind of cases, we should use the 02291 tariffs. We should make sure that we change and we use the 02291 tariffs where we are only claiming for the $35 for non-emergencies. Then another reason for rejections, well, this is not really tied to the doctors, but it's something that they can help us with. We have members with exhausted benefits. We have members that have already exhausted their benefits. Some have already made their 3 casualty visits and are not allowed to visit the accident and emergency units. So what the doctors here can then help us with, you see a CMAS patient and you are consulting, you're saying, no, this patient has already had their 3 visits in 2025. Maybe you could just help us flag with the reception. They could have missed this. It's something that they can miss sometimes because of the pressure at the reception, not justifying that though, but it can happen. So maybe here the doctors can help us flag this with the reception that no, this patient has already had their 3 casualty visits. Did they pay cash? Did they pay a shortfall or whatever before proceeding with the treatment? So I'll just explain on the correct use of tariff codes. So we are saying for emergency cases, let's use time-based tariff codes. So these tariff codes, we should just make sure that we are using them for true emergencies, and we ensure documentation of time of arrival. This is captured in the system. Interventions provided. Each intervention should be time-stamped. What doctors can do here is to continue adding observation notes into the system. And the nurse aides should also continue adding vitals. So according to one of the medical aids that we visited, the vitals should be done after every 30 minutes, and this should be recorded. So that this means that if the patient is here for 2 hours, they should have 4 vitals recorded in the system. If the patient is here for 3 hours, they should have 3 vitals recorded in the system. So this is how we can support that we've really observed the patient. And here we are saying the doctor can also continue adding notes into the system as well as the patient is admitted. The medical aid had suggested that the doctor can do this after every 30 minutes. But well, maybe because of the pressure that the doctors have, because of the busy and everything, the doctors can do this maybe after every hour, but we are saying the patient in observation should not just go with the initial notes. There should be notes after the initial consultation that show that no, this patient was observed and after more than 2 hours. Right. So there should also be clear clinical justification for time spent. We are saying our observations should be justified. Why did we observe this patient? What were they suffering from? Was sending them home without observing risk to their lives? That's how we can support our notes. That's how we can support the treatment plans that we have. Then, for non-emergencies or cold cases, as I've said before, for consultations without major interventions, let's use the 02291 tariff, which goes for $35, and we call it the non-emergency tariff. Then extended time-based tariffs are beneficial for us, as I've said before, but they should be used only if supported by the treatment plan and notes, as well as the vitals. The vitals, as I've said before, they should be recorded after every 30 minutes. This is something that doctors can also help us monitor. Maybe we are in the back office, we won't know that, we won't know if these nurse aides are really capturing the vitals as they should. So maybe the doctors can also help us supervise this to make sure that we make it a culture to record observations, vital observations after every 30 minutes. We document, as I've said before, we document reasons for observation for e.g. chest pain, ruling out cardiac event, head injury monitoring, post-seizure observation, etc. Always motivate if there are cases where the patient spends less than 2 hours in observation, but the observation will be necessary. So let's always motivate. How do we motivate? We motivate with notes. So always motivate if the patient is discharged before 2 hours, but monitoring was clinically necessary. Yeah, in such cases, we are allowed, but we motivate. So what I'm thinking here is in cases where the patient is spending less than 2 hours, and in some observation cases as well, let's try and use the emergency tariffs instead of observation. Why? Because number one, the observation tariffs are these time-based tariffs, they are they have less requirements. Yes, you are supposed to justify using them. You're supposed to support them with enough notes, critical notes, and the clinical data. So, but we can use them instead of the observation because they pay more and they have less requirements than the observation. If we charge the time-based tariffs, it means we cannot charge observation. We can only claim one of these. The only tariff that we are able to claim with observations is the 02291 tariff. So if you are admitting someone for observation and we are charging observation, let's ensure that we charge the 02291 tariff. Then we also claim observation. But if you are using the emergency tariffs, especially we have the 46 minutes plus tariff, which is higher, it pays better than the observation tariff. And also, it has less requirements than the observation tariff. But we cannot charge this tariff together with the observation tariff. We can only charge it on its own, right? So I've just put down maybe a few documentation standards that we may need to follow. Number one, patient demographics and membership details. These are captured at the reception. Then presenting complaint and history. This is done by the doctors. So we are saying to our doctors, please, let's make sure that we really put our focus here and capture everything that we should. The diagnosis must also match the tariff used. If you are going to use an emergency tariff, the diagnosis must also be an emergency, as well as the treatment plan should also support that we are treating an emergency here. Right? This is what I was saying. So that there should be detailed treatment notes, right? And also interventions performed, for example, IV therapy, nebulization, suturing, this should also be captured, right? Then progress notes at 30 minutes intervals. We've said this may be cumbersome for doctors. So we are saying at least for observations, let's ensure that we capture notes after the initial notes. We don't just let the patient go with the initial notes. We capture maybe when we are discharging or after every 1 hour. Then we need the doctor's signature in date and time. This is already in the system. Then we also need motivation for observation and admission. So when necessary, clearly state clinical risks if the patient had not been admitted or observed. So link this motivation to diagnosis, e.g. observed for potential concussion following head trauma. Right. Keep motivation short, precise, and medical aid friendly. So if we do this, I'm sure we'll really improve on the payments of our medical aids. These guys are paid to reject these claims, and let's not give them reasons to, especially on our lab claims. Let's make sure that if we use the primary, let's say if let's try, maybe we can even try to use both the primary and the secondary diagnosis. If the patient comes in maybe after an RTA, we just don't capture the RTA diagnosis. We also capture what we are investigating. Are we investigating a potential concussion? Are we investigating maybe internal head injury, bleeding? Or let's use those secondary diagnoses to explain the primary ones that we would have used. If the patient comes with a primary diagnosis, maybe hypertension, we are treating hypertension. But as you are going through, maybe talking to the patient, they are telling you something else. They are giving you other leads, maybe, where you're saying, no, maybe we need to do HIV tests as well. Let's look for a secondary diagnosis that supports why we are now doing the HIV tests on someone with hypertension. What has led to that? What are we investigating? Let's include that on the clinical data when capturing our notes. I'm sure with all these, we'll make a great difference.